What's the rudest thing you've seen someone do at a dinner party? This was during my junior year of college when my roommate Jessica invited me to her family's Sunday dinner. She was from a big Italian family, and her grandmother Nonna Rosa always cooked these massive feasts for whoever could make it. I was nervous because I'd never met her extended family, but Jessica assured me they'd love having a guest. Nonna always makes too much food anyway, she said. When we arrived, the house smelled incredible. Garlic, herbs, fresh bread. The whole place felt warm and welcoming. Nonna Rosa greeted me with the biggest hug and immediately started piling food on my plate before I could even sit down. The table was covered with homemade pasta, meatballs in red sauce, roasted vegetables, fresh focaccia bread, and this amazing salad with her special vinaigrette. Everything looked and smelled perfect. About 10 minutes after we sat down, Jessica's cousin Derek walked in. He was maybe 25, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt and carrying what I initially thought was his phone or wallet. "Sorry I'm late, Nonna," he said, giving her a quick hug. Sit. Your plate is right here." She was so excited to see him. Derek sat down and immediately pulled out what I now realized was a Ziploc bag filled with some kind of seasoning blend. Before anyone could say anything, he started shaking it liberally over every single dish on his plate. "Derek, what is that?" his aunt asked. "My special seasoning mix," he said loudly, continuing to coat his food. "I can't eat bland food like this. No offense, Nonna, but you never use enough spices." The entire table went silent. Nonna Rosa's face fell. She'd spent hours cooking this meal from scratch, using recipes passed down through generations, and her grandson was calling it bland before he'd even tasted it. I thought you liked my cooking," she said quietly. "I do, but it just needs more flavor. This stuff makes everything better." He held up the Ziploc bag like he was advertising a product. I watched this 82-year-old woman who had welcomed me like family start to doubt herself because her grandson was being thoughtlessly cruel. "What's in your special seasoning?" Jessica's mom asked, clearly trying to keep the peace. "Oh, just some garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, salt, pepper, basic stuff. You know, the flavors that actually make food taste good." Nonna Rosa looked down at her plate and barely spoke for the rest of dinner. The woman who had been chatting excitedly about each dish she'd made suddenly became quiet and withdrawn. Derek, meanwhile, kept making comments about how much better everything tasted with his improvements. "See, Nonna, this is how meatballs should taste." When dessert came out, this beautiful homemade tiramisu that she'd obviously spent hours perfecting, I knew I had to do something. "Oh my God," I said, taking my first bite. "Nonna Rosa, this tastes exactly like my grandmother's tiramisu. She passed away 2 years ago, and I've been craving this exact flavor combination ever since." Her eyes immediately brightened. "Really? Your grandmother made tiramisu?" "She was from northern Italy, came here in the 1940s. She taught me that the secret was in the coffee ratio, but I could never get it right. This is perfect, exactly how I remember hers tasting." Nonna Rosa started smiling for the first time since Derek's seasoning stunt. "The coffee, yes, most people make it too strong or too weak. You have to balance with the mascarpone." That's exactly what she used to say. "Would you maybe share the recipe? I'd love to try making it for my parents." "Of course. And next time you come, I teach you properly." By the end of dessert, Nonna Rosa was back to her animated self, telling me stories about her own grandmother's cooking and asking about my family's traditions. When we left, she packed me enough leftovers for a week. "You come back soon," she said, hugging me tight. "I make your grandmother's favorites next time." Derek, meanwhile, had barely touched his tiramisu. Apparently, his magical seasoning blend didn't work on dessert. 3 years later, Nonna Rosa and I still text about recipes. She's taught me to make her sauce, her bread, and yes, that perfect tiramisu. Last Christmas, she sent me a care package with homemade pasta and a jar of her special vinaigrette. The rudest thing wasn't just that Derek brought his own seasonings, it was that he insulted a woman's cooking without even tasting it, and then acted like he was doing her a favor by fixing food that didn't need fixing.